Damian Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Following on from the statement we've just heard from my right honourable friend, I would just like to start my remarks in the resumption of the budget debate to express my gratitude for the Chancellor making clear last week that the government will make available whatever resources are needed in order to meet the coronavirus threat to our country. That was mostly addressed in terms of the need for funds to be available for the health service to make sure it has the necessary staff and equipment that it needs. But I think in response to the statement that we've just heard as well, I and a number of honourable members are also concerned about the impact on businesses in our constituencies. I represent a coastal constituency. As we start to move into the Easter season and the early summer season, the ability for a visitor economy to make money from hotel trade, hospitality, events, let alone bars, restaurants and cafes, is incredibly important. The Harbour Arm in Folkestone is a major seasonal visitor attraction, and if the official advice, the public health advice, is that these centres of social interaction should be avoided for the foreseeable future, then there is a legitimate question about how those businesses will be compensated for their loss of earnings. Otherwise, we may see a great number of those businesses close with no option for them to remain open. So I do understand that the Secretary of State has just made an important statement to the House, and there are many further questions to be asked. But I think the questions that were raised by a number of honourable members in response to the debate are ones that I would echo. Members have also referenced the airline industry. I would also reference as well other key industries, particularly Saga, which is a major business in my constituency. And I can see the Minister for Health nodding from a sedentary position. He, as an old boy at the Harvey Grammar School in Folkestone, he knows well the importance of Saga to the local economy. But Saga has many strings to its bow as a business, but cruise lines and servicing the over-50s economy is a major part of their business too. And if areas of the economy like this are effectively going to be closed down for an indefinite period, businesses need to make sure they can communicate with their staff effectively, they can make plans effectively. And as the Chancellor set out, I think, in his statement last week, we want to make sure that viable businesses can ride through this extraordinary event, and that's so important. As I raised as well in response to the Secretary of State's statement, I believe we should also look at the information the public has access to. They need clear, accurate, reliable information. And I believe that people who seek to, in particular, use social media to spread malicious disinformation with the particular purpose of undermining public health should be in a position where they have committed an offence. I think we should have the ability, under maybe the emergency powers the government is considering in the bill it will publish later this week, to signify that as an offence, to spread misinformation about coronavirus with the intention of undermining public health. In Australia, similar laws were brought in response to the Christchurch terrorist attack last year. I believe Spain has looked at a similar response on disinformation and misinformation around coronavirus, and I believe that we should do the same things too. I just wanted to briefly touch on a couple of other important aspects coming out of the budget that are not directly related to coronavirus. And one I particularly wanted to mention was the government's commitment to supporting affordable housing, both to rent and to buy. In my constituency, we have a major new Garden Town scheme which is being supported and driven forward by the Folkestone Hythe District Council. It is supported by Homes England. The council owns much of the land that has been put into the scheme, and this Garden Town proposal could deliver 8,000 new homes for my constituency over the next 30 years. The Folkestone College is also a centre of excellence for construction industry skills as well, so local people can be trained in the jobs that will be made available as a consequence of building these homes. I welcome the money the government has pledged to support, through Homes England, the construction and provision of more affordable homes. I would ask for the government to look to see all it can do to work with local authorities that are supporting and taking forward Garden Town proposals. They still say to me that, my district council still says to me that the planning process is still very long, even when there's an early indication of support from the local authority to take the scheme forward. And there is an urgency to try and deliver these homes and get them built as quickly as possible, and also to support whatever infrastructure is needed to make these communities viable and attractive to developers to get involved in the schemes. I would also ask, if I could ask the government directly, I appreciate the Communities Minister isn't at the dispatch box today, but to look at what extra housing infrastructure support and investment could be made, in particular for the Otterpool Park scheme in Kent on the Junction 11 of the M20 motorway. I also welcome the additional money the Chancellor has made available to support the rough sleeping initiatives. We've already seen some of that money in the front line in Folkestone. We've seen that supporting charities that work with homeless people. I would also like to see more support for the Homes First scheme that has been piloted by different local authorities in Kent, which looks at some of the most vulnerable people to get them into accommodation first and then to identify and resolve the other needs that they may have. And this has proved to be a more effective strategy, but it does require more upfront investment, and I hope the extra money the government has brought forward can do that. I also welcome the additional money the government has committed to creating 5G equivalent broadband for the UK. This is an essential technology for the future. I think when we look back at the support over the last decade for BD UK's rollout of superfast broadband, that was a good initiative. It got more homes connected quickly, but it was also probably the wrong technology as well. Now, fibre-based technology would be future-proof. Few of us could have predicted in 2010 what would be the ordinary data requirements of people using information technology and the internet in their homes today and to run their businesses. And therefore, we should back a technology which is similarly future-proof, and fibre equivalent and fibre to the homes is that. I also think through 5G it gives us the opportunity to roll out at speed 5G equivalent broadband, particularly in rural areas, and I think it's right that the government prioritises in areas of delivery that are the most hardest to reach, the ones the market is least likely to deliver. And as was discussed in the House last week, I think it's particularly important that we look at alternative providers to Huawei. We look at companies that are not considered to be high-risk providers of future technology infrastructure, which is going to be so important for the running of all of our economy. Thank you.